Yeah, I don't know, John. I have heard people talking about hobbyist drone flyers, and like a couple got arrested near an airport
Mhm.
last week, I think,
Yes, yes, yes.
who were flying drones.
Right.
And definitely I saw some woman who was a newscaster who was taking video of the sky, and she's like, there was this orb thing that was kind of, you know, fluctuating, and she's like, what
Mm.
is it? Somebody should tell us what it is. Well, it was Venus. Okay,
Right.
here's one more update on a conversation that we had last week about the drones that are being seen on the eastern seaboard in the United States. John
Yeah.
says he has done a little more research. So,
Oh,
what
I've
do you
done
think,
not just a
John?
little more, a lot more research.
A lot
Because
more.
basically I didn't know very much at all. Like I just kind of read that this was happening. And since then I've kind of looked into it. And in my opinion, it's a non-topic. Like I think these are just people who have drones that are choosing to fly them. Or is often the case, it's just like regular airplanes that are flying by, often as they're approaching an airport, and so they're a little bit low, and people are seeing these things. I think these people have never looked up before. They just never looked up and seen an airplane in the sky, and so they're seeing regular airplanes and thinking that it's a drone, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of a frenzy right now. Everybody's saying there's drones, and everybody's looking up and looking for drones, and they're seeing airplanes and they're freaking out. And I don't think it's that much of an issue. The stuff that's going on over military bases is probably just curious, regular old drone flyers.
Yeah, I don't know, John. I have heard people talking about hobbyist drone flyers, and like a couple got arrested near an airport
Mhm.
last week, I think,
Yes, yes, yes.
who were flying drones.
Right.
And definitely I saw some woman who was a newscaster who was taking video of the sky, and she's like, there was this orb thing that was kind of, you know, fluctuating, and she's like, what is it? Somebody should tell us what it is. Well, it was Venus.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I will agree with you. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what is in the sky, for
Right.
sure.
Right. Right.
However, I think when there is a large something the size of a vehicle hovering over your house, you might not necessarily.
Okay, so I saw another video where there was a police helicopter that was just flying over slowly and low. I don't know, looking for somebody or whatever. And people were
Right.
taking videos of this thing and saying, "What is this?" And it's a drone, but it's just like there are websites where you can go and you can see the flight patterns of things that are in the sky, right?
Right.
FAA registered aircraft. And so if you just go and look, you can see that at this time and in this location, there is this aircraft flying.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that will very quickly solve most of your problems, I think.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I think that possibly UFOs might exist. I can't say that they don't. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Well, I'm
weird
not even
stuff.
saying that I think they're UFOs, because I
Yeah, no,
don't
no, no,
necessarily personally think that.
exactly.
But
But I
but I
mean,
also think they probably do exist.
that could even be a thing, right? That could
Right.
even
It
be a
could
thing
be.
that you might be looking
Yeah.
up and seeing a UFO, but it's
Yeah.
maybe not a drone, right? I mean,
Yeah.
let's just keep an open mind, but
Sure.
I don't think that there's probably a big drone conspiracy going on right now.
Yeah.
And
Well, I've seen it politicized already as well.
yeah,
So the New York Post basically put out an article where they're saying, oh, all of these drones are still being seen over military bases across the United States. And by the
mhm,
way, they all happen to be sitting right next to Chinese owned farmland. Right.
okay,
So they
yeah,
are now turning it into this justification for blaming the Chinese and
yeah.
putting
Well,
that fear into people.
the New
And
York
it's known
Times,
right wing. Yeah,
The
well,
New
this
York
is the New
Times do
York
not
Post.
have, okay, the New
This
York
is New
Post.
York
Okay.
Post,
Okay,
and
I was
it's a
gonna say
known right
the New York,
wing
yes, yes, yes.
tabloid
The
of
New York Post have a terrible track record, but I was gonna even say that the New York Times do not even have that great of a track record,
right,
right?
right.
Like they were really pushing for us to go into Iraq and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, newspapers. This is something that I've read about even recently. I saw some discussions online. The idea that there used to be media outlets that were trustworthy and that now we don't have them. And I don't think we've ever had trustworthy news outlets, right? Maybe they generally lied less in the past for whatever reason, but they still lied to us whenever it was expedient to whatever cause that they were being pushed to
Right.
support, right? Then that's the narrative that they would push,
Well, which
right?
is why I say that the New York Post is basically just turning it into propaganda to create
Yeah.
fear,
Of
of the
course.
other
They're
again.
they're essentially the Fox News of
Right.
newspapers, right?
Right.
And the Washington Post these days is almost no better after
Yeah.
being bought out by Jeff Bezos, I believe it was.
Well, and again, all of our media is owned by just a few people.
Exactly, exactly.
Same
Even
problem.
even our scientific publishing outlets are owned by just a couple of
Right.
corporations at this point.
Right.
So
Right.
you can't trust too many. So I think what we have to do these days, and I kind of prefer it this way. I kind of prefer understanding that you can't believe anything you read. And so you have to look at a bunch of different sources and kind of get
Yes.
like a feel for the general consensus, right? You
Yeah.
can't just trust one group. That one group is
Right.
going to take advantage of this. They're going to lie to you and you're going to fall for it because you think that they're not going to lie to you, but they're all
Right.
going to lie to you, right? So
No, though,
you,
John, I mean, you say that, and to a large degree, I agree because
mm,
control is in so few hands.
yeah,
But on the other hand, I find the vast majority of people
mm.
to be honest in what they're saying.
No, of course,
They
yes,
just don't
yes.
know any different than what they're saying.
I completely agree with you on this
I don't think
because
everybody's evil.
no, most people don't have an agenda to really try to convince people to do something, right? But
Right.
when money starts to get involved, then suddenly there's an agenda. There's an agenda. I want money and I got to get more money. And so I'll say whatever I can say to get more money. And this is what's happening, I think.
And I kind of blame the 24-hour news cycle as well.
Oh,
It
yeah, they're
used
always
to
looking
be
for
when we
news.
were kids, you got the evening news, you got the morning news, you got the
Right,
weekend news, and that was
right.
it.
Yeah,
It wasn't all day, every day. And they weren't
yeah.
having to come up with stories to
They gotta
fill all
sell,
that
they gotta
space.
sell to their advertisers,
Yeah,
right? And they don't want to just advertise in the evening when the important news is supposed to be broadcast or whatever. They want to advertise all day long. And so they have
yeah,
to keep something bombastic and exciting and they gotta keep the eyes, right? There's
right,
in the United States, there's a billion channels you can watch, right? And so they have to not only just try to outcompete the other news sources, they have to outcompete like everybody, your home
right,
garden TVs and your Nickelodeons and your everybody. And
right. So
so,
the more
yeah,
sensational, the more they can sell.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I don't know that I agree with you fully that everybody looking up is just stupid and doesn't know what they're looking at. I'm not there yet, but I'm waiting. The jury
Yeah.
is still out for me. I'm
Yeah.
waiting to see
Well,
what comes of it.
I think this is more or less a non-issue at this point, based on what I've read. Like again, I'm not there. I haven't seen them myself. Um,
Well, I have no fear around it,
yeah,
so we'll
exactly. And
see.
the government's saying there's nothing to be worried about. How far can you trust them?
That
Maybe
might
not
be
very
the
far.
first that might be the first reason to worry though,
Yeah,
John.
yeah, it might be.
All
But
right.
but
Well,
like I don't know if they don't know what it is, then and they're not worried. If they really don't know and they're not worried, it's probably not a thing.
yeah. I suspect they do know and they're not worried. That's
Yeah.
my sneaking suspicion. So,
Okay.
anyway, all right, till next
Yeah.
time.
All right. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.